right now with my cohort Shane Loatman, and we have a guest today, Wayne Latomsky. Wayne, welcome to our live podcast.
Sam and Shane, it's a great pleasure to be here. Thank you for
Yeah,
inviting me.
great pleasure to have you, Wayne. And what we want, so Wayne, we want to have you tell a little bit about yourself and your company, WNDY, Wendy, and what Wendy is all about. Obviously, I talk about ageism in America quite a bit, and us old folks always trying to find a role. After we maybe after we graduate, we get exited, or we say we're going to go on our
That's a
own.
fine way to
So,
say it, but yes.
yeah, fine way to say it. So,
Yeah.
everybody, Shane Loman. Shane, welcome again to yet another week of us having conversations. But I thought it'd be really interesting to talk about your journey at Wendy and really kind of tie it in why you created it, and maybe how people can you can help people out there in the world.
Okay. Well, thank you, Sam. Um, it's an interesting journey. I've had a blessed career. I've worked with some great brands, and I've had the opportunity to launch those brands literally around the world. I've physically launched brands in 67 different countries. Brands such as the Gala Winery, Snapple, Gatorade, Sobe Beverages, Pepsi, Starbucks Frappuccino, Welch's, and so forth. So I've been really blessed in that respect. But about 4 years ago, just around the beginning of the COVID outbreak, I kind of I had left Welch's due to a restructuring, and I had worked with a startup, and it just wasn't going as well as it could. So I started to look back for a corporate America job, if you will. I was 59, 60 at the point, and quite frankly, no one wanted to talk to me. And after a blessed career where I have really done some things and could still add value, it was quite disheartening. Um, so I took an inventory of, well, what do you do well, Wayne? What have you done? Well, I've launched brands around the world, and I've done it successfully. We've been market leading positions all over the world. So, all right, let's go do that. But the question was, well, what brand? What kind of product do you launch, right? And when you look at the inventory in the marketplace, an underserved market is the 55 plus, the 50 plus community. That market in the United States alone is $8.3 trillion in annual spending. By itself, that 50 plus consumer in the United States would be the third largest economy in the world,
Holy
bigger than
cow!
Germany's economy, bigger than Germany's economy, bigger than Japan's. We know China is the second largest, right? I mean, it's that big. And that's just in the US. And when you look at it, and again, I had the advantage of being in that age. Um, what products really speak to me? In this category, in the beverage industry, particularly, Boost, Glucerna, and Ensure, that's a very different product. Those are more nutritional needs. Those are people who are really ill, and so forth. There's nothing that speaks to me in terms of my lifestyle or provides me a functional benefit. So we did some consumer research and kind of try to understand what's preventing the 50 plus consumer from living their life well. And number one, money. I can't help you with the money. But number two was energy. Number three was recovery. Um, Number four was the memory, the senior moment. What was that guy's name? What was it? I just had it on the tip of my tongue. And the last one that popped was immunity. Of course, this was being done during COVID, so that makes sense. Well, I can do something about that. So we created a company, and Sam alluded to as Wendy. And Wendy is an acronym for we're not dead yet, right? We're not. I'm not. I'm now 65, and I can still add a lot of value. I still want to play in the game. I'm not dead yet. So that's the ethos of the company and the brand, right? Because when you look at a brand, who does it target? Our target audience are those 50 plus consumers that have not given up yet, that are still in the game, still want to play in the game, still want to live life well. So we've created a brand and a product lineup to help that consumer do just that.
Oh, that's awesome. So tell me a little bit about the what it is exactly Wendy does, and how you work with brands, and I believe you have your own brand
Right,
as well.
right. So while we're fundraising to launch the Vivendus brand, which is the product lineup that I had just indicated, Vivendus in Latin means to live life, right? But in an engaged way. It's not a passive living. So hence the name Vivendus. And that's going to be the anchor of what we're trying to accomplish for that 50 plus consumer. So we're fundraising to raise the funds to launch that brand, to buy the materials and ingredients and do the marketing for that. But in the interim period, while we were building the Vivendus product, we built an ecosystem, if you will, right? There are 10 people on our team, all of whom are of, well, with the exception of one, are of that age, right? We're all that corporate America guy that has aged out, but we all have value, right? One is the ex VP of sport marketing at Procter and Gamble. One is the ex VP of commercialization at PepsiCo. Another one is the ex VP of national accounts at McKesson. Sam is on the
Yeah.
team, and of course, he was the VP of sales excellence at Breakthrough Beverages and led national account teams all over the world. I mean, it is a quality team. We have the Gatorade, the founder of the Gatorade Sports Science Institute on the team.
Oh, wow.
All quality people, right? These guys have been there. We've done that. So we're raising the money to be able to launch this Vivendus brand, which is the core. But in the interim period, while we're doing that, we have built up an infrastructure of talent, right? From operations, from marketing, from sport marketing, from sales. Um, so we're working with other brands to help bring in revenue for the company that can benefit from our knowledge, targeting the 55 plus and other companies, other consumers. Uh, and part of the ecosystem we've built a distribution system into nursing homes, rehab centers, um, 55 plus communities, long term care communities, an interesting channel, perfect for our product uh, that we can bring other products into, right? That want to get into that but haven't had the opportunity. Um, so we have one product called Force of Nature. Force of Nature is ideal for this community and the 50 plus consumer in general. But what it is um, it's the only certified carbon neutral cleaning and disinfectant solution in the world. It's totally non-toxic. It's totally uh, chemical free, and has been studied by the University of Massachusetts and does as good a job as Lysol, Pine Sol, Clorox, Renews It, Windex, any number of products. So we've got that, and that's an ideal situation for nursing homes, schools, and so forth. We have another brand called Swap Ons, which is just kind of fun. It's on your phone, and you just swap this on and off. Sam's got one with his family. I have one as well with the family, so we're representing that as well. We have a couple beverage brands that we're bringing into the help bring into the market. Kombucha, which is a kombucha with electrolytes, and an yerba mate tea company called Erva Tea. Um, and then a new brand, a new product called Waste Light that uses bitter
Hop
hops.
flower.
Yeah, what's
Yeah.
that?
Hop
Hop flower.
flower.
Bitter hops, and
Yeah.
it's been proven out of Japan to help reduce weight. And it's really great because everybody is looking to reduce their weight, but and they've got Ozempic and everything else. It's very expensive. This is a very different product and can help you do so uh,
Yeah.
easily and
Well,
less expensive.
eh, so you started this journey how many years ago? How many when
Well,
was when you found that?
it's a good question. So I actually started the journey about 4 years ago
Okay.
when everything started coming together. But lo and behold, I did get that corporate job. It came out of the blue.
Yeah, the Fruit Smart role.
Yeah, Fruit Smart. So I was president of Fruit Smart, which was is the second largest non-branded fruit processor in the country, based out here in Eastern Washington. So I moved from the Boston area out here to Eastern Washington to take that role on. The company had to restructure. The role was eliminated uh, due to some issues with the parent company. Um, and here I am. So this Wendy program was reborn, and we're trying to live life well.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Shane, I'm sure you have a lot of questions because there's a lot to digest over the last 9 minutes with what Wayne shared. I'm
Yeah, I
curious
talked too much. I
and what kind of
apologize.
questions you have of Wayne.
No, I mean, I think it's so intentional the way you guys are doing it, that you start with your target audience and a need in the market where so many beverage brands don't. They start
Mhm.
with a concept that they just want, and it, you often end up forcing a round peg into a square hole, or and I think that's got to give you guys a great advantage because you're starting from a place of clear market need and target audience.
Shane, like I said, I've had a blessed career. I've had some good mentors over my career. One of whom was a guy named Mike Dobson. Uh, he was with Quaker Oats, and at the time of the Snapple acquisition, I got to know him very well. And he taught me what I call the great brand theory. And that is when you look at great brands, right? When you look at the great brands, a Nike, BMW, Apple, the Marlboro cigarettes, right? When you look at those great brands and you hear their slogan, you see their advertising. I mean, what does Just Do It have to do with
Yeah,
sneakers, right? What
yeah,
is what is the slogan for Marlboro Man, which isn't one, it's just the Marlboro Man, right? But what does that have to do about cigarettes? Apple, what does Think Different have to do with any of that? It has nothing to do with computers. But what it does, it has everything to say about the consumer
yeah,
that buys those computers. The people who buy Apple, especially in the early days, thought differently, right? The
yeah,
people that buy Nike do it because that's who they are. They just go do it. The people who smoke Marlboro, and God bless you if you do, please stop. But if you do, they do it because of the in that rugged individualism,
Yeah,
that American cowboy. That's how they see
yeah,
themselves,
yeah,
right? So, to your point, you always start with the consumer in mind, and everything else flows around that. And that's what we've done with the Vivendus line. Hey, what is that target? What do they want? And most importantly, how do they see themselves? And in our case, they just we're not dead yet.
yeah.
Right.
And
yeah,
you're going right
We,
after a very specific audience, though, too, right? You're going after
yeah,
the
we are.
55 plus.
We're going right after that 55 plus. So, keep in mind the 50 plus community in the United States is 100 million plus and
yeah,
$8.3 trillion dollars. It's a small, but it's not small, right?
yeah,
It's very targeted, but so it's not a niche. It's a real category.
Well, I
yeah,
noticed when you started that there's a lot of companies starting to talk about the 55 plus.
Well, they're starting to get wise, and our
Yeah,
window of opportunity to jump out there is starting to narrow because people are starting to pick up on the fact that the 55 plus community is, like I said, 100 million plus. It's 8.3 trillion in spending. They're living longer and living lives more actively engaged. Sure, why not? Right? But they haven't cracked the code yet. They don't understand what they're trying, what taps into the consumer. Because to your point, Shane, they got a product and then they try to fit the round peg into a
yeah,
square hole. You got to start from
yeah,
the other end.
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And
There's
once
a. God, sorry. Good, Shane.
no, once you start the wrong way, you're fighting an uphill battle the whole way.
The whole way, the whole way. And as a startup, you're always going to be tight on cash. You're always going to have limited marketing dollars. So you need to be very, very focused in what you're trying to do. So you multiply the dollars accordingly, right? By
Yeah,
being consistent in your messaging and in your branding so that the storyline flows time and time again. That's how you multiply the dollars that you have to spend. Um, so yeah, you got to be very tightly focused on what that consumer believes about themselves.
yeah, totally.
So is that the message you take to the other brands you represent at Wendy,
Yeah,
or?
yeah, yeah. Help us define themselves. Like for Force of Nature, which is a phenomenal product, right? It's really about the consumer that wants to live healthy. They want to be sustainable. They want clean, right? That's Force of Nature in every respect. So that's
Yeah.
a younger audience as well, particularly the early millennials, Gen Z, and so forth. Yes, but a lot of 55 plus in the nursing home and stuff, the non-toxic nature of that particular product matters to them, right? Because you
Yeah.
don't have the chemicals and so forth that could be an issue for people that have breathing problems, for example. So yeah, the force of nature is very clear on it's very clear on its message and its product offering.
Yeah, it's interesting because that product's actually a part of the Department of Defense. So you're in Walter Reed and the
Yeah,
White
so
House, and
yeah. So they've done a test
Wow.
and they've been in 4 Department of Defense locations: the Pentagon, Walter Reed Hospital, um, Fort Lewis McChord out in the Seattle Tacoma area. And then there's one other location, and it's got something in my eye. But in any event, they just got approved by the Pentagon to be able to go throughout the system. And they're working through the paperwork to get that all set up. But before long, you'll be able to start seeing this product.
and what's
In
interesting is like,
in
Shane, you're probably like, well, how does it tie into beverages? Well, think about these beverage companies that have to, like, the manufacturing, they have to clean stuff in and
Yeah.
around their areas. Or, think about like the craft breweries where they have like, they have to clean around the, like, when they're pouring and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, this stuff is like, if the spray gets in there, there's nothing, it's harmless. It's not going to affect you. Right. So
no
it's
chemicals.
all like,
It's
you could literally consume it,
Well,
you
in
know.
fact, you can actually use it to clean fruits and vegetables.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah, it's water, salt, and vinegar. That's it,
Right.
right? But it's been electrolyzed a little bit to kind of put the magic mix together. But that's all it is. And if you buy fruits and vegetables in the store, bring home, douse them in all you got to do is spray it on. You don't have to do anything else. It clears any of the bacteria or germs that may rest on the fruit or vegetable, and that helps prolong the shelf life of the product. They don't rot as quickly as a result.
Well, let me transition a little bit back to the conversation around ageism in America and why you created this.
Hmm.
Um, you always jokingly say that I aged out and I had to go out and create this thing, right?
Right. Right.
Um, what message would you? And this happens with people every day. A relatively large wholesaler laid off 3,000 folks a couple weeks ago that Shane and I were talking about. So all these folks are on, and some of these were like 20-year veterans, and they're like, what am I going to do next, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or there's another rumor on the street that another wholesaler is offering early retirement for 50 people that are 60 plus,
Hmm.
and giving them 2 weeks for every year that they've been employed, up to 52 weeks, right? But at
Wow.
60 years old, you're not done yet. You still have bills you got to pay. You got to put food on the table,
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
whole bit.
Hmm.
So, what kind of advice would you give those folks that are, find themselves in a circumstance, because you've obviously been on this journey for 4 years. What kind of advice would you give these folks that are, in search for their next, position?
That is a great question, Sam. And I would say there are 2 key things. One, first of all, don't give up. Okay, don't give up. Uh, it is harder to find the corporate America job, right? But that doesn't mean they don't exist. First of all, shame on corporate America for figuring out that people 55 plus don't no longer add value. I mean, that is
Well, they're
just
obviously not reading what you just said. It's the
yeah.
third largest economy in the world, but you're letting them all go.
It's just silly. It's just silly, right? You're exactly right, Sam. And the talent, the experience, the knowledge. I keep talking to people. You know, when I was doing the interviews and stuff, people were saying, "Yeah, but they're not tech savvy. You don't know how to." I said, "No, but I know the right questions to ask, and I know how to answer and pull that information that you've created into a workable solution because I've been there. I've done that, right? And I'm
Hmm.
learning as I go. I'm still learning. So what I would say, the first thing is don't give up, don't stop learning, right? But alter your game. And what I mean by this is play the game that you can now win. All right. If corporate America is not interested, doesn't mean you can't start your own. All right. It is a proven fact that startups, people that start companies up after the age of 50, are far more successful than people that start at a younger age. Why? Because they've been there. They know how to do this, right? Um, Secondly, small businesses, which are the growth engine of the country, which employ 80% of the people in the United States, are always looking for talent, especially if you've got big corporate America experience behind your back, right? They're always looking for talent because they want to grow.
Love that. I love that.
Right?
Yeah.
So take a look at that. I'm a big Star Trek, Star Wars, both fan. And one of the things that I learned early on in my career was something that came out of the very second of the original set of movies, and then in the very first set, in the next set of movies with Christopher Pine. That's called the Kobayashi Maru.
I knew you were going to say that.
You knew where I was going, Sam. But Shane, do you know what when I say Kobayashi Maru? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't, and I should because I've seen all the movies.
Okay, all right.
You're going to learn something new here today, Shane.
All right, so
you're ready.
The Kobayashi Maru is a test that every Starfleet cadet has to take to see how they think under pressure. And it's designed for them to lose. That's just part of the game, right? But of course, our hero, Captain Kirk, is the only one to ever beat the Kobayashi Maru. And when asked, he says, well, I went in and reprogrammed the game. I snuck in, I reprogrammed. And I said, oh, you cheated. And he said, no, I didn't cheat. I still had the opportunity to lose. I just gave myself the opportunity to win. Right? And that was in the second movie called The Wrath of Khan with William Shatner that was brought up. And that was in the in the early 80s. And I saw that. And the takeaway I had from that is play the game you can win. Right? Change the circumstances if you need to play a game that you can win.
I love that. I've heard that. My daughter said that to me all the time is play the game you can win.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you try to put square pegs in the round holes and it's just not working, man.
Not working.
Yeah.
No. So, when I say I have built market leading positions around the world, it's because I always looked at the market from a different perspective. For example, in Russia, we launched an energy drink called Sobe, Sobe beverages, Sobe Adrenaline Rush. And Red Bull was in the market. They were number one by far. And a perfect example of this is Red Bull's model at the time was go in and win the clubs and then go to retail, right? Red Bull and vodka. So we went into the marketplace. Oh, okay, we're going to do that. We'll pay $10,000 to get the distribution penetration in this big club. The next week, they came in and paid 15. We were never going to win that.
It's a race to the bottom.
It was a race to the bottom. We were never going to win that game. Yeah. So we looked at ourselves and said, well, what do we really do well? Well, retail. We're Pepsi. We got trucks going to every store in the country. So we went out there and won at retail.
So you played where you win. You win at retail. You don't win in the clubs.
You don't win in the clubs. Red Bull was always very expensive. We came in very expensive. We made a lot of money, but we hit a price point that was within the pocketbook, right? Yeah. The advertising, Red Bull was even then, still today, you got those cartoons, great cartoons. It's a great brand. Don't get me wrong. I have a lot of respect for Red Bull. We brought in a commercial that was just pure energy, right? I don't know if you're familiar with a sport called parkour or free running. It's where you use the urban setting as a gym. You just kind of run and jump over buildings and jump off of buildings and what have you, right? And we put it up to some heavy rock and roll music from a band called Rammstein, a German band. And it just shouted energy. And we went from number 3 in the market to number 1 in a month and held that position up until COVID when Pepsi pulled out of the market.
I remember those old radio ads. People would just be yelling.
Yeah.
They were great.
Yeah. So my point again being is play the game you can win. Look at the field. What's out there? What are they doing? Can you win? Can you beat them at their own game? And if not, figure out the game is.
That's interesting because Shane and I live in a world where it's very crowded.
Yeah.
Meaning that there's a lot of whiskeys, craft beers, tequilas, and they're all like calling on Shane. Hey, Shane, help me find a wholesaler. Shane, help me find a customer. What would, like in the adult beverage space, Wayne, I know you're familiar with it. Like, how do you compete in a crowded category? Like, is there some things specifically a brand could do from Wendy's perspective?
Yeah, I think, yes, again, it all starts with who your target consumer is, right?
Yeah.
To your point, there's a lot of brands out there, but really hone in on your consumer. I think a perfect example is in the beer category, Modelo, right?
Yeah.
Now the largest number one imported beer in the country. They have really honed in on who their consumer is. That fighter, that guy that's got the fighting spirit. That's me, right? And if that's me, then that's the beer I'm going to be able to buy. George Clooney's tequila,
Casamigos.
Yeah.
Casamigos, right?
Casamigos.
Class, suave, right? That's who George Clooney is. That's who he, presented that brand as, and the consumers that see themselves as smooth, and suave, and debonair, boom, that's where they go. So really hone in on that consumer. It may be a smaller niche at time, but if you get that consumer insight right, the wannabes are going to come.
Yeah.
Right? Those that don't see themselves that way right from the get-go, but there are a lot of people that want to be that way, right? They then follow the early adopters of the true core, and that's how you build that market, right? Because then when you go into Total Wine and Spirits, or you go into Kroger to pitch your distribution penetration, you can talk very cleanly about how your product consumer is differentiated from everybody else's. You're going to say, well, maybe that's too niche. Yeah, but if you show that you own it,
Yeah.
you're offering something that the other guys aren't. Now you get it going, right? So for the adult beverages, that's what I would it's always about the consumer. In my opinion, too many adult beverages are too caught up in the product,
Yeah.
right? They're too caught up in the product. Hey, I got this great tasting tequila. It's smoky. Yeah,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Who's the consumer?
Well, and the other thing is that brands come in and they'll like the amount of craft breweries that I work with that all make a Mexican lager because Modelo's doing well. And that's just their reasoning. Well, and then they complain that their distribution partners don't give them enough attention and priority. And it's like, why would they? You can throw money at this endlessly and it's going nowhere.
We're going
Right.
nowhere. Right?
It's going nowhere.
Get the consumer piece right. It's not Modelo is doing number one, not because it's a Mexican lager.
Yeah.
It's doing really well because that consumer says, you're talking to me.
Yeah.
I am the guy with the fighting spirit.
Yeah.
Right? I want to be that guy.
You talk about quality, and so many breweries and brands are caught up in quality. Montucky Cold Snacks got acquired by Gallo, and the owner, the founder, is open about the fact that it's not great beer. It's just light lager, but they've got a brand around it, and they speak to the outdoor lifestyle. It's more brand than product.
It's always. I would take it one step further, Shane. It's always the consumer.
Yeah.
And how the brand reflects the point of view of the consumer back at them.
Yeah, it has to align with what the consumer believes. I did a post this morning and I kind of talked about that, consumers prioritize quality over brand. Sorry, guys, but and they like to experiment. But at the end of my post, I really talk about like there's a lot of consumers that have a desire for sustainability, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So if that's your target, your consumers about sustainability. In your brand message, you should talk about sustainability, and what you do should have sustainability around everything that you do. So, because that's going to resonate with them and how you communicate with them.
No. There's one other thing that I would add, though, because to your question earlier, Sam, it's what would you do to help promote it? Yes, get the consumer point right, get the brand right, and the right fit. But the other thing is from a sales and marketing point of view, what is the value you add back to that distributor?
Yeah.
Right. To that.
Yeah. Shane talks about that all the time.
Okay. Yeah.
I like to view it as a role, like a basketball roster. Everybody wants to be LeBron James. They want to be the lead scorer. Yeah. And they say the amount of guys that go out of the league that way because you're never going to be.
No.
Yeah. I went to school with a guy who's been in the league 8 years. He's the best backup point guard in the league. He's made $80 million because he knows his role. He knows where he brings value.
And he's a backup for $80 million a year?
Okay. No, but I mean, over his career, I think he makes $8-10 million a year.
Wow.
I mean, he knows his role. He knows where he offers value to that roster, and he just hammers that.
Yeah, yeah. So exactly. So Shane, that's a great analogy, and that's what you got to do. How do you add value? Because when you look at a distributor, they've got a roster. I mean, how many brands do
Yeah.
they have, right? And you're just going to be one of. If you're not adding extra value to them in terms of the consumer insight, in terms of how the brand fits with the retailer, if you're not going out into the stores and doing a market survey and saying, all right, this is where your gaps are, and helping the distributor general manager understand, hey, I've got gaps here and there, because he's never going to look at your brand,
Yeah.
right? He's just not. You got to do that for him, and that's okay. But if you do that the right way, before long, you start getting top of mind awareness, and then you start getting the brand push because you're adding value back to that distributor and GM beyond the product itself. And
Well, and
that's
you get rid of the insecurity that I was working with an RTD brand. We're not Surfside. You don't need to be Surfside. You can bring a lot of value in selling 5,000 cases for this distributor. They know your role. They know how much they need to allocate to you and what success means, and they
Yeah.
need that role filled.
Yeah, no, 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 exactly, exactly. So those would be the two pieces that I would add. You can know your consumer and how do your brand reflect that, and then add value back.
Well, you built brands in 62 countries, which is amazing to me. And obviously, you talked about marketing, and you also talked a little bit about the tactics. You should go play where you win. You went to retail. You built the one brand you talked about. But what from just a blocking and tackling standpoint, Wayne, when you're opening up a country, I get the marketing, but there was a whole bunch more that had to happen from a tactical standpoint. Do you have any insights there in terms of you're new to market? I'm opening up Russia. I know no one in the market, but I have this brand and I'm going to bring it to market.
Yeah.
What
So,
does that look like?
well, the first place you got to do is really do a little bit of a market survey. Where would your brand fit? What's its rationale for being in the marketplace? You got to understand that. You got to understand that consumer piece, because then the next step is finding your partner in the marketplace, your distributor, your licensee, your broker, whatever the case is. And if you can't communicate those key elements first, where do you fit in the market? What does success look like? You're not gonna resonate with that distributor. So you need to get those fundamentals right so that when you go into a potential distributor, you can start painting a vision of how this brand could be successful. Okay. So you got to do the basic market understanding, brand fit, product fit for the consumer, for the marketplace, and then how you can bring that to life. Then the next step is that, and it's critical, is understanding who that distributor is going to be. There's a lot of different ways you can do that. The U.S. Embassy will always help, sometimes for a fee, sometimes not, to find out who the players are in the marketplace. I often went to the retailers.
Yeah.
Hey, who would you recommend?
Yeah.
Right? Who would
Oh,
you
and
recommend?
that could happen in the U.S. too, Shane. You could
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
could literally go to the retailers like, who are your preferred distributors in the marketplace?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Who do you like? Who does the best job? The buyers, we've all dealt with buyers and they can be very difficult, but at the end of the day, they're good people. They want to see people succeed. They want success because if you're successful, they're successful, right? So they're going to give you some good advice. So don't be afraid to talk to the retailers. Talk to the embassy, and talk to marketing companies, right?
Yeah.
The agencies. Who do they think is getting
So
it right?
how do you, I mean, obviously you had a lot of marketing dollars behind you and a big machine.
No, not always. Not at all.
Okay, but how do you convince a wholesaler to take you on? Because the one thing that I see is they're like, I got too many brands. I'm not interested. I'm sure, Shane, you're faced with that, trying to find distribution, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
You got to know your value, right, Wayne? You got to know that
Yeah.
value prop before anything.
Exactly, exactly. And the value proposition is not just, hey, if you sell 5,000 cases, you can make this much money, blah, blah, blah. No,
Yeah.
it goes beyond that, right? The way I call it is you got to paint the vision of what this could be.
Yeah.
All right. And I think it's critical. I find this very critical. When you're working with a distributor, you've got to have core alignment on the visions and the values. And what I mean, what is the vision is what can this product be? Right? What could this energy drink be? What could this ready to drink tea be in the marketplace? What is that? is it 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 cases? You got to get them to see the potential, see the same thing you see, and then how you're going to get there.
Yeah.
Critical, right? And the values are, how are we going to work together, right? How do we communicate? What are we, what type of demands am I going to put on you versus what you need to put on me? What kind of value am I going to add back to you? Because if you don't align on those two critical pieces,
Yeah.
the rest of your job and the most of your job is then is going to be managing the relationship. You don't want to be managing the relationship between you and your partner. You want to be managing the business,
Yeah.
right? So if you're not aligned on the vision and the values, you spend that time managing the relationship and it's, why aren't you doing this? Why did
Yeah.
you not get that done? That adds no value.
Yeah, Shane
Right.
talked about this a few weeks ago where sometimes it's just not a right fit. Remember you talking about that, Shane?
Yeah.
Like you go to this wholesaler and the supplier's like, well, I got a wholesaler. And you're like, wait a minute. That's probably not the best fit for your brand. Don't say yes to the first guy, because if your vision and values don't align,
Right.
it's probably not a good thing, right?
Exactly. Exactly. You're never going to achieve what you believe you can achieve because you're managing the relationship. And it's never a good relationship. You need to be managed the business, right? You need to be making sure you got the right promotional activity. You got to make sure you're getting the right execution against that promotional activity. You got to make sure you're getting the right marketing message out to the consumer. Those are the things where you should be focused, not on managing the relationship. So
And
if you add if you get alignment on those visions and values and then add the value back to them.
Yeah, Shane, you were going to say something?
no, yeah. I mean, I always compare it to dating. You got to know the values that you bring to the table and what you're looking for in a partner. Because if you don't, if she wants kids and you don't, she likes hiking, you like watching football, it's just never going to work.
Never going to work. Exactly
But
right.
you've got to know that about yourself, and in this case, your brand going in,
Absolutely.
because you can ask those crucial questions. And I think it's confidence inspiring because it empowers you to ask questions and set up accountability from the start. This is who we are. This is what we need.
Yeah. And believe me, if you're good about it, that distributor, that broker, they're going to respect that.
Yeah.
And when they respect the value that you're adding back to them, that's how you get top of mind awareness, right?
Yeah.
And that's what you need.
Well, I think the value to distributor nowadays is get it off my floor within 30 days. And then obviously here's certain thresholds that my trucks can be productive when I'm making my stops.
Right. Yeah.
So I think where the value is in a category like which I play is if I can secure a distribution or a feature, an ad, display something, that's where the distributor actually can fill that order. And then they're, from a logistics standpoint, they're just more productive and they can feed their bottom line. Because at the end of the day, let's call it what it is. Distributors are very incredibly important, but they have a lot of brands and a lot of chiefs.
Yes.
So the simpler you can make it for them, and Shane, you talk about all the time ABP. The ABP is very clear, and you have an aligned annual business plan with them. They know exactly where they're going. They know the destination, and you've aligned on that plan. I like to call it a commercial plan, but wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, you got to go in and who are we selling against? What's our target consumer? What's our target account? And what are the brands we're selling against? Where's our value prop within that? It's got to be something that you can repeat easily and efficiently at scale because, like you said, Wayne, if I have to go into the shelf and I'm looking for tequila and I'm reading the ingredients and where it was smoked, I just don't care. It's got to be straight to the point, scalable, and distributors can engage with it and do it successfully. If someone's got to go in and read a 3-page sales sheet, it's just not going to happen.
We talked about this a couple of weeks ago with a lady named Courtney O'Brien, and she ran all Gallo marketing for several years, Wayne, out of Modesto, and actually was part of Coca-Cola. And the most compelling thing that she said to us out of that thing, you remember, Shane, is can the distributor repeat your message?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because it's got to be executable. If not, they're going to spin their wheels.
Yeah, and oftentimes marketers talk to themselves.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So I'm sure when you were going into like Russia and England and all the different places you went, I'm sure you you could, I mean, I'm sure Pepsi could have had all these great like 3 pagers, but I'm assuming you distilled that down to something really simple,
One
right?
page, one page, one page.
1 page. Yeah.
You know, and it always, again, for me, always started with the consumer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, you were talking about, you know, the message being something that's easily understood that the distributor gets. The way I always wanted to approach it is you're building that relationship with them. You're coaching them, you're training them, you're their extra set of eyes and ears for them so that they do what you would do when you're
Yeah.
not there, right? That's
Yeah.
the goal, right?
That's the goal, right? When you're not in the room, are they
You're not
repeating
in the
your
room.
message? Are
Yeah.
they representing
Right,
your
right.
brand? You know, it's I always equate it to baseball. I'm like, look, just give me a 200 batting average and I'm winning, right? So just, you know, or I do like present my brand 10 times a week and give me 10 minutes of time, you know, but over the course of time, at least they're repeating my message, but my message has to be really distilled down in such a simplistic manner that they can repeat it. Right. And then that's how you win and build it. Look, we've gone over on our time
Well,
today,
no, this has been
Wayne.
fun. Thank
It's
you.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been very, very educational. I want to give Wayne, Shane, a couple opportunities to ask you some more questions for clarity, and then two, just want to have maybe you close down with some final thoughts.
Okay. Well, thank
Yeah, I
you.
don't think I have any questions specifically. It's just it's refreshing to hear people that they get the consumer first thing because you know, like I said, the amount of brands you sit down with that are so focused on product and we have the best product and like it just doesn't matter. It's you either get it or you don't, and especially in the craft space as it continues to get more competitive and more crowded. You better figure it out or it's going to be, you know, it's going to cause some problems for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
No, very
Yeah.
much.
So Wayne, any closing thoughts? I mean, I love your message that starts with the consumer. I also love your message around what you're doing with Wendy and your brands, and also the message to those people that don't give up.
Yeah.
That's really important because there's a lot of people hurting out there right now. They don't know what's
Know where to
next,
go. Yeah.
and they don't know where to go. They don't know who to call. And I think it's a great message. Don't give up. I always say, just start.
Start.
Just a hit go and go. And you know, no one has the answers. Shane and I talk about it all the time. It's like, you know, Shane actually scaled and built a very successful distributor in Pennsylvania, and now he's out doing this. And you put your ego aside, as Shane says, right? I
Yeah.
always like put your ego aside, you know, because what you did yesterday doesn't matter. It's what you're going to do today
Right.
is what matters.
Right.
But some closing thoughts that you want to leave with the, you know, about Wendy, about your journey, about building brands. This has been very informative. By the way, really appreciate your time this morning.
No, this has been fun. I really appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, we're each on our own journey. And as I mentioned at the very beginning, I've had a blessed career. I have. And I would say to people that you know, certainly those suffering from ageism, if you will, not to give up, but don't give up your faith, especially, right? Believe God does have a plan for us all, and don't be afraid to say yes to that plan. And yeah, it may look ugly right now, but it's going to work, right? I've got a team that we enjoy working together. I mean, this is the best group of people I've worked with in my entire career because we've been brought together for a reason, and I believe that sincerely. And that being said, you know, if anybody ever wants to talk about it, feel free to reach out to me if you want to invest in what we're trying to do. My email is WLUTOMSKI at Wendy Inc. WNDYINC.com.
Yeah, and I'll drop it in the podcast too for people to get in contact with you, Wayne, for sure.
Yeah. And I'm more than happy to share my insights or talk to you. I'm you know, at this age, I get to pick who I like to work with.
I love that. At this age, you get to pick the people you want to work with. Yeah. And I think, Shane, you said it, you don't want to work with assholes. So
right.
Yeah, you just gotta want to work with people, you know, good people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And fortunately, I am. And I'm very thankful for their support and their their constant willingness to pitch in.
Yeah, well, I love what you're doing. I always tell people about Wendy,
Thank
and
you.
I'm like, you know what WNDY stands for, the acronym, and they're like, no, what is it? And I said, we're not dead yet, incorporated. Then I go into the story about ageism, and look, just because someone decides to age you out or retire you, or you retired, that doesn't mean that's the end. You have to go out and create your own destiny. What's next? And look, companies need to wake up. This nonsense of letting go of people like 55 plus, 60 plus, this is the third largest economy. So yeah, I'm speaking to all y'all out there. Stop letting go of older folks. They are your core business. And by the way, if they want to move on, great, let them move on. But it shouldn't be the standard. At the end of the day, it should not be the standard. But I want to thank you and Shane for joining today, and obviously Shane is my co partner here in this. Really greatly appreciate it. Any closing thoughts, Shane?
No, that's it. I always enjoy it, and enjoyed the conversation, Wayne. I appreciate it.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah.
This was a lot of fun. I thank you for the opportunity to be here.
It's great.
Very
All
much
right.
so.
Until next week, everybody. That's the end. Hope everybody has a great day.
Take care.
Yeah, that's it. That's so that's been live. That was on just to let you know that.